Hello, everybody. Right now, we have with us a finance expert, a banking expert. We have with us Priyanjali Das. Let's listen to her. Over to you, Priyanjali.
First and foremost, I'm truly excited to be here. A big thank you to Dr. Subodh for giving me this platform to share my journey. This space is incredible, I would say. It brings together voices, experiences, and insights we can all learn from. And today, I'm honored to add my story to the mix. So, to just give a high level structure, I will start with giving a brief background from where I come from, then my academics and career, a high level detail probably what I work on, and then I would like to touch a bit on few learnings, life realizations like change in perspective towards career and goals after parenthood, and finally a very quick and brief glimpse into my aspirations.
Okay, let's do it.
And sir, as I walk you through my journey, I would love this to be an interactive session. So if at any point, if you feel, I'm going haywire, I'm going off track, if you have any questions, please jump in.
Sure. Let's do it. Okay.
Okay, so let me start. I did my schooling from Calcutta, Kolkata rather, and life has taken me through many cities for work, studies, each place shaping me in a very different way. My father was a central senior government servant, I would put it that way, and his frequent transfers meant, visiting new cities. So, for example, when I was working in Calcutta, my family was based out of Chennai. So, if I took few couple of days off and I had to visit my family, that would be traveling to Chennai. Once again, when I was studying in Bombay, my family was based out of Ahmedabad. So, vacations and visiting home would mean exploring Ahmedabad. And looking back, somehow I think that constant movement kind of prepared me early on to embrace change, something that has helped me tremendously in my career and life going forward. Coming back to my academics, when I was in school, like many others, I chose science in 11th and 12th grade. And that was quite a choice, out of my own decision. I love, those three subjects, physics, maths, and chemistry, specifically physics and maths, I would say. And then get the next very big decision, like what to study in college. I did write all those entrance exam for engineering, and I ended up choosing engineering with a specialization in computer science. But to be honest, that wasn't really a very well thought out choice. It was mostly about following the herd, like herd mentality, we kind of say. Engineering seemed like very safe, conventional path, and so I went with it. I would say pretty early into the course, I realized something that I wasn't really passionate about coding. It just did not excite me. However, I didn't have much of a choice at that point of time. I went ahead, I completed my degree, and I started my career at a consulting firm. Now, here's where things started getting more interesting. My work as a consultant was related to a banking software. And that was actually my first real exposure, I would say, to the world of finance. Trading, hedging, accounting, banking products like loan, credit card, line of credit, etc. And all these concepts were completely new to me. And guess what? I started, and that actually caught my interest when I think back. While my job wasn't actually building this software to enable all these businesses, I was more keen on learning the business side of things rather than building the software that supported it. After almost 1 year of working, I started preparing, for CAT and those other, MBA entrance exam, because by then I have kind of made up my mind. I wanted to go ahead. I wanted to do an MBA. So finally, after 2.5 years of my work over there, I took the plunge. I pursued MBA in finance from Narsi Munji, Bombay, thinking finance is where I truly belong. And here's once again the story kind of takes an unexpected turn, because during my MBA, I had an even bigger realization, I would say. So it wasn't finance, it was fintech, the intersection of finance and technology. I discovered that I was far more interested in, how technology enables financial businesses rather than just technology or even just finance. That's a journey I'll dive deeper into as we keep going. Now, after a short stint of work, I eventually moved to Toronto. If I ponder over what made me take this calculated leap, that is because throughout when I worked as a consultant for multiple banks and financial institutions, surprisingly in my case, all of them were kind of based out of the North America region, the Western Hemisphere. So as I kept on interacting with people, working for systems based out of that, a thought kept nudging me. If most of the people I work with and the most of the systems I deal with on a daily basis are based off that region, I mean, why not be where the action is? And again, back in India, when I thought of the Western world, it seemed very rosy, like a dreamland of opportunities, success, better life. But like with everything in life, reality had its own way of showing me the full picture. After moving here, I began to see what I would like to call the darker surfaces of the moon, the side that is not typically visible from the distance, the craters of the moon. And when I so say this, please don't get me wrong, I have no complaints. I mean, life has given me immense opportunities and I'm very grateful for them. What I mean is, I realize that the grind exists everywhere. The struggles, the responsibilities, the everyday battles, they don't disappear just because you moved to a different country. And one of the hardest part in my case, that is living so far away from family. It's a challenge I thought I am kind of prepared for, but then honestly, the emotional weight of it was way heavier than what I have imagined or even anticipated for that matter. I think I've gone too philosophical and too emotional. I think I've digressed a little. Let me get back on track. So I think I was talking more about my academics, what I studied, and probably the next thing I would like to talk about is what I work on, my role. So as of today, I work as a technical business analyst in one of the big five banks in Canada. Now, if you would like, I can briefly explain how a financial analyst role differs from a technical, business analyst role, with probably an use case if that sounds interesting. Should I? If perfect. Okay. So
Yeah,
now
let's hear it. Let's hear it.
let me share a quick example to paint a clearer picture. So I already mentioned that my role is part of the engineering team of a bank, and that's quite different from the traditional finance roles. Okay, now if I take a real world example, let's talk about a large investment bank, say JP Morgan or Goldman Sachs. Now, every day, these banks process thousands of trades, like equity, bond trades. And before settlement, every trade has to pass through validation checks to ensure correctness. Here I'm talking about an issue related to the trade life cycle. Just one or two lines, what I'm talking about, this specific issue that I'm talking about. The trade life cycle refers to the end-to-end process of a trade from the order placement to settlement. Any kind of trade, if I'm buying, any stock, even for a mutual fund unit for that matter. So key step in the trade life cycle is first is validation, then enrichment, and eventually settlement. And if validation fails, the trade cannot move ahead. It gets stuck right there. So in my situation, let's say the trade validation fails because an important data point is missing. Let's say a crucial piece of information. Let's say the ISIN number. The International Securities Identification number is missing, without which the trade cannot move forward. Now, in this very scenario, how the two different roles would behave? What would a financial analyst do? First, the financial analyst would log into the trade validation system like Calypso or Bloomberg. Then they would review the specific trade fix or the Swift empty message to understand and to pinpoint the missing ISIN, number in this case, which is the missing data. Then they would contact the trading desk to investigate why this data is missing. Eventually, they will for sure manually enter the ISIN number, which is the missing data. then prepare an audit log for the regulators, and escalate if necessary, depending on their, outcome of the analysis. The process is manual and usually quick. And it's, I would say, a bit of operational process to handle the situation. Now, what would a technical BA do? The tech BA with engineering team would make the system smarter. That is going to be quite time consuming, and probably the approach is going to be rolled over through months. So instead of fixing the issue manually every time, we would want to design a system that can handle this whole issue automatically and accordingly build a very advanced and automated workflow. So what do I mean when I say the system is going to be smarter going forward? The system now will be automatically able to look up the missing data, in our case, which is the IC number, probably using the Bloomberg API. Then the system would be smart enough to automatically fill in the blank, that is the IC number in this case. Then integrate the validation rules directly into the trading application, in our case, like Calypso or Bloomberg, and then automatically generate or audit report, probably in visualization tool like Power BI or something. That is removing the need for manual documentation and intervention. This approach would enhance accuracy, reduce error, and how will it help us? So now the analysts have more time to focus on the more important factors, make strategic decisions rather than, spending time on such repetitive tasks. And since I was talking about what I do, along with all of these, a huge part of my role is also collaborating with stakeholders, bringing teams together, ensuring projects are delivered on time, smoothly, so on and so forth. And as I mentioned in the beginning, that is a brief overview of my academics, the work I do on a day-to-day, daily basis. And any questions, anything you would like me to elaborate on?
No, I think it's pretty clear that, though you quit engineering, in the end, you are still doing some of it.
Yeah. That's,
Yes.
Fintech is all about, yeah.
You're still doing some of it. And automating the process, when you have so many millions of transactions, automation is essential because manual, as you said, is too slow and too error prone. You have to have an automatic mechanical process, and that's the only way you can do more transactions. So I think it's pretty clear that there is a technical side to your work, but you cannot just be a techie. You have to understand what the heck they're doing.
That's right. We call it marrying, tech and finance.
Yeah, okay. So it's marrying tech and finance. That's very good. Okay. I think you mentioned that you had some other subject you wanted to talk about. So let's move there.
Sure. So I would love to shift gears a little and talk about something more personal. A few life lessons I've picked up along the way. Two major things I wanted to talk about. One is embracing change, and the other one would be the power of selling. And these two things I've learned over the time, and I would say the hard way. Let me talk about the first one. So, be it technology at work, a shift in culture, or even something as simple as switching from hard books, physical paper books to ebooks, Kindle changes everywhere. Over time, I have realized that to grow, to survive, to keep moving forward, we have to embrace change. And it just doesn't mean at work. It means in everything, in all aspects of life. I would put it that way. One of the biggest transformational changes in the last decade, if I think of, is the rise of social media. Okay, now I will be very honest with you. I was never a big fan of social media. I found it unnecessary. I found it overwhelming often. And I felt, that's a platform that lets too many people to talk about too many things. But if we look at the world today, networking, that's social media. Job opportunity, social media. Education, social media. Even if somebody talks of business, they will probably, move into the digital platform, talk to people, again, social media. So what I'm trying to get at is, with this example, staying away is no longer an option, irrespective of the fact whether you like it or not. So change happens whether we like it or not. Resisting is not even an option. In the last decade, surprisingly, I've realized that change has been tumultuous. I think you can better narrate the change that the world has gone through between 1980 to 2000 is comparatively less compared to the change the world has seen between 2000 to 2020 to 2025. So again, if I go back to Darwin's theory of natural selection, which again refers to the survival of the fittest,
Yeah.
that's not about physical strength; it's about adaptability. So in nature, the species that thrive are not necessarily the strongest, but those that adjust best to the changing environments.
Mhm.
I learned it the hard way. And the second one I wanted to speak about is the power of selling. So that is another thing that is never taught in books, but is very crucial to life. And in career, any sphere of life, ability to sell is something we often do without even realizing it. So again, over here, I as a person used to be very averse to anything sales related. If anybody would ask me, even after the word sales, the things that came to my mind was cold calls, achieve, sales target numbers, convincing people to buy something they are not at all interested in. That's exactly how I used to look at things. But but then I realized something very critical, that selling is not about products. It is about ideas, it's about influence, and it's more about self confidence. Over the time, and what I've realized is, for example, we are selling tacitly even without realizing, as I mentioned. If I want to pitch an idea at work, I am selling. If I'm a startup founder and I'm raising funds, I'm selling what I have built until now and my idea. If I'm negotiating for a bigger project budget, I'm making a presentation that's tier co meetings, I'm selling. And even if I'm asking for a personal raise, in my yearly review with my manager, guess what?
Yeah.
I'm selling what I've worked on. So the ability to present, persuade, and position ourselves is a skill that we probably should learn early. I should have learned early for sure. And I would say it's a life skill.
Yeah.
So these are the main two key learnings I wanted to talk about. And again, I would take a pause over here. Anything specific if you want me to touch on or elaborate as
No,
such?
I agree with those 2 points. I mean, it's even more important for my generation because we grew up in a very different time. For us, changes can be quite threatening. But if you are with it, then it's not threatening. Okay, then it's exciting. And
Right.
so, and the ability to sell, yes, I think most people don't realize that uh, you are always an idea salesman or salesperson, always selling yourself or selling idea or selling your team or selling something. Selling is the wrong word. It means convincing
That's
others.
right.
It's convincing
That's
others,
right.
convincing others that you are right and you have got it and you have figured it out. So yeah, I think it's very important. Part of public speaking, presentation, boiling it down into a few words, all these things, they are there, right? And that's part of it. You cannot expect people to listen to you for 45 minutes. You have to
Yeah.
be able to come up with some way to explain things very quick.
Correct, correct.
So
Grab the
yeah,
attention.
no, I have quite a bit of experience with it, but this is your turn to speak, so let me not talk about it. All right,
Okay.
let's continue.
Yeah, I'll continue. So there's another thing I would like to talk about. And this time it's about a real paradigm shift in my outlook after becoming a parent. So when I started my career, it was a lot about passion. I wanted to take risks, chase exciting opportunities, explore options, move from one location to another. A lot of freedom as well. And I did quite a bit of that. But life again has a way of reshaping our priorities. And for me, that moment of realization in short came with parenthood. So, to give you some context, I have a son. He's 3.5 years old now. And let me tell you, his arrival changed a lot of my perspectives. Suddenly, responsibility wasn't just a word, it was something I felt every single day, very, very heavy on my shoulders.
Yeah.
It was no longer just about my own needs, but about creating a safety net for the family,
Mm.
specifically keeping in mind the little one.
Yeah.
So in very short, I found myself shifting, towards from risky to more, secure things like choosing mutual funds over probably options, buying insurance products, actually sitting down to plan my financial future, even my health. Something I had taken for granted, being very casual about, became a priority.
Yeah.
The things I once saw as, very distant, boring, suddenly became very real, very fast. This initial shift was very confusing. But I wasn't, very comfortable with the thought, the way I am making this paradigm shift. But slowly over time, I realized that's completely okay. So in life, probably there is a time to chase dreams, and then there is a time to build a very strong foundation.
Yeah.
And sometimes playing safe is not about fear.
Yeah.
It's about ensuring that when the time comes for the next big leap, you have a solid ground to stand on. You at least actually can take that plunge. You
Yeah.
can take that risk because you have, the basic necessities of life all taken care of.
Yeah.
So that pretty much sums up
Well,
my thoughts. Yeah, go ahead,
I,
Sam.
I have a 3.5-year-old granddaughter. She lives pretty close by, so we see her frequently. So I can tell you, I understand what 3.5-year-old means. Yes, there's a difference between sons and daughters, even at that age. But yes, indeed, there is a new responsibility when you have a grandchild. It's not the same as when you have a child, but it is there. It's
Yeah, I know.
slightly different, but it is there. Okay. All right. But enjoy it. Enjoy as much as you can.
That I agree. There is a lot of good side to it and
Yeah,
exciting side to it as well. I totally agree.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay.
So, and yeah, so one last thing that I would love to share, and that's I wanted, as I mentioned at the very beginning, I would love to touch upon, one aspiration, something you truly aspire to work on in the long run. So, okay, before I talk about what I aspire to build, let me give you a high context of, what is the gap and what I intend to bridge. We often talk about the difficulty of choosing a career. So there is an overwhelming number of courses that keep emerging, mushrooming everywhere. And each of them claims to be the next big thing. Each of the course promise the student whoever subscribes that your knowledge base will go up, you will have galore of opportunities after doing it. But amid all these choices, there is a major gap that often goes unnoticed, something I personally struggle with. It's a disconnect between what we learn in college or courses and what we experience in the workplace. Theories, formulas, and frameworks, unfortunately, don't always translate seamlessly into real world application. The way projects run, the skills required, and the decision making processes are rarely what we are really prepared for. I'll give a quick example once again to explain what I'm talking about. Okay, let's say you are studying a finance course. And when I say you, I literally don't mean to you, probably whoever is watching the video, I'm referring to that person. And you come across, you're learning valuation models. And let's take one good example, discounted cash flow. And you're a CFA student or FRM, whatever. You will learn the formulas, you will learn the assumptions, the parameters, and how to solve the problems in Excel. So whatever exams you write, whether that be an exam or whether you're working on projects, that would be doing the whole process end to end. And the assumption would be the student would typically assume that exactly how that's going to the evaluation process would be working in real world. If the person thinks so, the person would be in for a big surprise. So here's what kind of actually happens in real world, I would say. Even before a person starts any valuation calculation, the most of the time is spent in data cleansing, data structuring, which is usually in a very messy and unstructured format. Then would come the step of building a model to plug in the numbers, probably using VBA macros or Python, where the models will be built to handle those data sets efficiently. In exams, typically assumptions are given. In real life, one really needs to stand up and justify those assumptions to the senior manager or the investor or the clients who might come back challenging, and the person should be very confident to defend their model. That's a very major part I have at least seen in my real world. And most important, unlike exams or in projects, evaluations are not done by one person. It's a collaborative effort involving multiple teams, a number of applications put together, and each team, or rather each people, responsible for different aspect of the whole thing. While when they learn in a course, they do things end to end with the some business use case provided. I believe no one tells these kind of details to the students, and that's probably where things become a bit fuzzy. So, how do we fix this? One of my long-term aspiration is to create a platform or a course where students can see how these concepts actually work in the industry. How
Okay.
do real projects function? What does problem solving actually look like in a professional setting when you're working with real data? And the dollar exposure or the amount is like huge. It's no more just mere number crunching. And I believe if students could understand this early on, they can make more informed career choices, align their skills, and step into careers with better confidence and conviction.
Okay.
So that's an aspiration still.
Okay. Wonderful.
A gap that I have realized, and I am kind of started working on at a very niche phase.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all I wanted to kind of speak about today.
Okay. Well, thank you for telling us about all the changes that have come, whether it came from your transfer of your father's or then changes in life and so on. It's been pretty hectic for you, I take it. But let me ask you a question which would be on the minds of many people. There has been pretty much of a dispute between the Canadian and the Indian government. And
Yes.
how does it affect you, or does it affect you at all?
Okay, now the answer is very difficult to give over here because in the long run, I haven't really delved further into understanding what all industries are affected. Personally, I have not fallen into any of the scenarios where I have been impacted as such.
Okay.
But I have really seen people who are on a work permit or on student visa, they are really affected.
No,
They are scared and
no,
they
I'm talking about people like you who have jobs and are settled. Are you affected by it?
practically, to be honest, I don't feel I'm at all affected. Often, what we see in social media or otherwise, it's not really okay. I won't be making any comment over here. Personally, I would say I don't feel at all affected by that.
Okay,
It's
so
like two things fighting right
when you
now.
go to work or you go to shop or anywhere, it's the same as before.
I have personally not been affected, but I have heard people, and in the digital platform, I have seen people are impacted by that.
Okay.
So I won't say the people are not affected, but personally, I have not been affected until now.
Okay.
And there are specific few regions where actually all those collisions kind of happen.
Okay.
I have seen. So if you're not over there, practically you are not impacted at the moment. But then there is always a lingering fear that if tomorrow that area, which is probably some 40 miles away from my place, there is impact over there. We don't know tomorrow what's going to happen. So that's always a looming fear somewhere. That
Okay.
is,
All right.
yeah.
Now, I don't want to push it more than this. It's enough of an answer. I mean, you are looking pretty relaxed yourself in Toronto, so I think that's my answer. But I thought I'd just ask you. Okay. It's my usual practice to tell the speaker to have the final word. I think we are getting there. So let's have the final word.
For a closure, I would just like to thank you, sir, for having me today.
Ah,
It's been an absolute pleasure sharing my journey, my experiences, and my thoughts, along the way. And for not, I don't remember for last time I have spoken so long and somebody actually listened to me. Today, I believe in this world, the listening habit is going down. People often speak too much. Even I try to master the habit of being, a good listener. Oh, a very big, rare quality. And
well,
to everyone,
let me add something there. You know, I long forever never took notes in any meeting. And people would say, "Why aren't you taking notes?" Sometimes they would say, "It's because I'm listening, damn it."
that's right.
I don't want to divide my attention between listening to what the people are saying and understanding what they are saying. Instead, I'm writing or dictating or whatever. So learn to listen.
Right.
And this is
Exactly.
why I also don't talk much in these things, because you need to listen.
Yeah, exactly.
You need to listen.
But
It's a
that's
lost
quality
art.
I believe kind of fading today.
Pardon?
No, I'm saying that's a quality kind of, kind of fading today. I
Yeah.
see people want to speak so much. They want to say a lot.
All right.
And I would
I
just
also
suggest,
speak a lot, but
no,
you
no,
know,
that's different,
I
sir.
also listen. Okay, great. So, okay, let's end it here. Maybe we can talk a little bit offline. Let's end it here. Thank you,
Thank
Priyanjali.
you,
It
sir.
was a pleasure to listen to you. I'm sure others will also benefit from it. That life today is not a straight line, you know. Life today is non-linear. You do, in my times, it was linear. Okay. You just got into one field and you stayed there. You never looked here and there. Today it's like this. Who knows? You quit engineering and you ended up in engineering.
Right.
All right, good.
That's it.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much. Okay, let's end it here. Bye
Thank
for
you.
now. Okay, bye everybody. I'll be back with another young person or an expert. Bye bye.